On Spalding's dad, Marsh from New Albany.
Okay.
He comes to play at my game.
Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. It is 6:33. We're calling the regular council meeting to order. Ms. Monroe, if you'd like to call the roll.
Mayor Don Barnard.
Here.
Tiffany Hollis.
Here.
Ryan Green.
Here.
Dave Seelan.
Here.
Jeff Barr.
Present.
Wes Coble.
Here.
Bob Orsini.
And tonight we have the Johnstown Independent Baptist Church providing the invocation. Will you please stand?
Before I pray, I want to wish all of you a Happy New Year and a Merry Christmas. May you find the true joy in the season, not in the gifts, but in the giver. Father God, we come to you this evening and we rejoice in our freedoms, the liberties that you've given us, the opportunity to self-govern, to elect those from our midst that we feel will do the best to protect us and to guide us into growth. We would ask this evening that you would look upon this meeting and shepherd it and guide it and lead it. You've known the outcome since the beginning of time, but yet we still toil to do the work before us. Guide these folks, lead these people together and celebrate the birth of Christ, that we would not be lost in the commercialism of it all, but we would find true hope, joy, and peace. Father, we love you and we thank you for the freedoms you've given us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. We're going to move to approval of agenda. We received the agenda. Is there any changes or additions or deletions? Hearing none, what is the will of council?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed.
Aye.
Okay, citizen comments on matters not on the agenda. Ms. Monroe, who do we have tonight?
I do not have any speaker slips.
Okay.
I actually wanted to speak. Did I not sign in correctly?
Oh, there's speaker slips to fill out.
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
I'm sure.
You can go ahead.
Or?
You can go ahead.
Did I make a mistake, Nani?
You're fine.
I apologize. So my name, I apologize.
Good.
You know me, I can make mistakes. My name's Alan Benton. I live at 8217 Winnie Hollow Road, Johnstown, Ohio, 43031. I'm here tonight. First of all, I want to thank you for your service to the community. To be an elected official here in Ohio is a thankless job, and it's a very tough and demanding job, so I want to thank you for your service. My wife and I, we own a LLC that owns 67 acres in the old industrial park, and I had a couple of questions, and I don't expect an answer today to those questions, but I wanted to get an answer at some point in time because things have changed since we've owned the property. So the property was always zoned light manufacturing, but then I looked at your comprehensive plan, and now the property is residential housing. So I want to kind of understand that whole process and how that changed and how that impacts the property that I have. The second issue that I have is when I originally bought the property, you know, there were different people here. There was Jim Lerner, there was Jim Blair, there was Bailey, that was the planner, right? And I know everything is changing, and I know that you're all challenged with a lot of changes that are going on within the community. And again, I understand the demands that you have on your time and your jobs. But I looked at, so at one time I owned 3 factories. So I have about 100,000 square feet of factory space. I operate a company out of those factories over in the Heath and Hebron area. So at one time I bought the property because I thought about building factories on the property, because as my business expands, you know, I've built a factory in the past. I thought about, you know, building a couple of 50,000 square foot buildings there. So at the time, Jim Blair and Jim Lerner said, hey, there's no problems. We'd love to have. And it was even, they told me it was about $300,000 to run the water along the front of the road. Back then, I'm sure it's not $300,000 today. But when I bought the property, you know, it was cheap, right? It was inexpensive compared to property over in the Hebron Heath area. So, you know, it's around $60,000 an acre back then there. And And with the cost of the property for the water and the sewage and the cost of the property, I had about 17,000 in the property. So it was really an advantage for me to buy this property. But now it's residential instead of industrial. So that kind of, I don't really understand that whole process. And then the other thing is, I started to look at the permitted uses for my property. And there's actually 5 permitted uses. Pottery, figurines, novelties, appliances, light sheet metal products, green elevators and mills. And then there's warehousing and stuff, but I'm not a warehousing, I'm a manufacturer. So I really didn't understand that, because when I was talking to Jim Learn years ago, he said, hey, as long as you're a good citizen and what's going on. So I'd like some clarification. I'd like to try to understand your processes and your procedures so that I can better understand, so I can manage this property and manage what I need to do going forward with my property. So again, I thank you for your time today. I apologize for not signing in, but it's me. So here, I brought these along. This was the appendix that I was looking at. Hopefully, I was looking at the most current appendix for light manufacturing. I may have actually the wrong document, I don't know. And I want to thank Donnie and Sean too, because I spoke to both of them about the issue today. And I appreciate their time and their willingness to talk to me about it, but I just wanted to come in front of everyone to make sure everyone understood what challenges I was facing, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
What's the name of the LLC that owns the property?
It's ABY Leasing LLC.
Thank you.
See that it owns a couple of farms and industrial properties and scattered throughout the county. It owns some stuff other places too, but
Thank you, Mr. Denton.
thank you.
Anybody else like to speak tonight?
I got one more speaker slip. Justin Fox.
Good evening. My name is Justin Fox. I represent Rodney Johnson and the Johnson Family Trust, which is the owner of 60 acres, actually immediately adjacent to Mr. Benton's property on Sportsman's Club Road, the property that he was referring to tonight. I understand there's an application in front of you guys tonight, which is really not why we're here specifically, but that application has kind of opened our eyes to some new things and developments within the city. Specifically the comprehensive potential change in the zoning or the uses of those properties. Mr. Johnson's property, like Mr. Benton's property, is currently zoned light manufacturing, which was the zoning that was used when he was annexed in, or when he came into the city. So we are interested in understanding why the comprehensive plan is looking to take the property out of the light manufacturing district, just like with Mr. Benton. We are also confused, I think, is the right way to put it, with what uses are permitted under the light manufacturing text. It looks to me as if that text was probably written a long time ago. I think it's maybe outdated. I think it's maybe limiting. And I think the challenge for property owners and for attorneys and for all of the folks working on these issues as Johnstown grows is that without clear guidance on what to do and how to do it, then it creates confusion, which sometimes creates turmoil, which I think is a lot of times almost done only because of the confusion. So we wanted to reiterate Mr. Benton's comments, and that we would like to try and get as much feedback and comments and clarity on the comprehensive plan and the change in use, as well as start a dialogue to how to address the confusion that exists with the light manufacturing code. Appreciate all of your service. Sean has been very helpful in communicating with me in answers to these issues, so we appreciate that, and we plan and hope to continue to maintain an active dialogue there.
Mr. Stainer has your contact information.
It does.
Okay, so we can get back with you. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move to correspondence. We have a notice to legislation authority. This is a notice to legislation authorities for objections to renewal of retail liquor permit. This is a standard yearly thing that we get. It gives the chief of police the ability to review what liquor permits are expiring, and if there's any issues with them. They do this in bigger cities, correct?
Correct. I have no objection with this.
And he has no objections to this, so this is just our notice. So there's nothing we need to do with this. Moving forward, council committee reports. Planning and zoning met November 26th. Their next meeting is tomorrow at 6:30 in council chambers. Is there anything to report from that meeting?
Nope, pretty brief meeting. had some items tabled that we'll see again.
Okay. Design Review Board met the same day. Their next meeting is also tomorrow at 5:30. Ms. Monroe, was there anything for that one that you'd like to report?
Just, they saw one application for a sign that was tabled. They're gonna see a new type come before them. The board did also see an application for the design of a new building in the business park. Greenscapes Court, the board expressed concern about the orientation of the building on the lot. The front door was positioned towards the rear of the property, which is in direct conflict with the design guidelines. Their additional concerns were for the square footage of the building relative to the lot size. They were concerned that semi-trucks would need to use the cul-de-sac, the city right-of-way, as the maneuvering area for semi-trucks to get to the loading zone. The board did provide an opportunity for the applicant to table their application and return with a new design addressing their concerns. However, the applicant was not willing to change the size or orientation of the building and requested a vote from the board. The application was not approved.
Okay.
That's all they have.
Okay, thank you. Safety and Service, they met today?
We did not.
You did not? Okay.
Nope. We will have some questions for Jack during his report.
Okay. Next meeting is January 7th at 5 o'clock in council chambers. Finance, we're waiting to see if any questions arise tonight. If so, we may have one next Tuesday. If not, it will probably be the 1st of January. Rules met November 19th. Next meeting is as needed. And Township Liaison met 11/21. Next is January 9th. Was there anything to report from that one?
Just solidification of the mission statement, the assignment of the township assignments to Wes, Tiffany, and myself, and then clarification of outreach to the township trustees, just to make sure we're not getting them into sunshine law questions or issues. So make a single point of contact with them, that they have a single point of contact back with us.
And how does that work with them? You can only meet with them one at a time, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Since most townships have, 3 trustees, if you were to meet with more than one of them, ours if we had more than 4.
Thank you, guys. Director reports. We received water, sewer, and street. Does anyone have any questions about water, sewer, and street before we get to Jack?
I do.
Go ahead, sir.
On the water plant number 1, it says the flow is 15.872 mg. That's per day. Or is that a month?
That's for the month.
For the month.
Yeah, 15 million gallons for the month. But what you will see is less from the office because of last week's holidays was to get the report in. So I think it was turned in on the 27th. So there's 3 more days worth of flow would normally be added to that. So your monthly flow would be a little higher, probably closer to 18.
On number 8, is there any more context to this meeting with the drinking water source protection plan?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna bring that up in my report, but we'll handle it here. Basically, Ohio Rural Water Association is going out. They got some money from the EPA to help smaller communities, which we are, do a source water protection plan at no charge, so we took advantage of that. Actually, I've got the first draft of that source water protection plan back, and I haven't started to review it, but I will currently review it and get back with them to see what changes or modifications we may need.
So they review what our current protection plan is and then did,
And enhanced it. Basically, what that does is fuel stations, if there's any chemical spills or chemical factories around here where the water, where it could escape and get down into our drinking water aquifer, they look at the zone of influence where our well fields are at. Of course, we're 600,000 to 900,000 gallons a day out of there. Of course, when you're pulling that water, any contamination up above us can be pulled into that drinking water. So this source water contamination report shows us of the areas that we have to be careful of. If we see that there's a leak or contamination, that we can be proactive towards watching it, and any existing things. Actually, we have removed a couple things that were on the existing source water protection plan because they've been removed, the soil's been dug out and replaced. So
So-
that's what the source water protection plan is.
So we've had a water protection plan in place, and this just amplified it
This
to,
is an enhancement.
Great.
And my hope by getting this done through basically the grant that they're supplying is when the new water plant comes in, the EPA would probably request a source water protection plan be done.
okay?
Well, this funding come up, so it's something we may not have to pay for if they find it adequate when the new water plant comes on.
The additions to anything to what we already have, does this grant pay for that, or
No, just the study.
just the study of it?
Just the study of, and letting us know what they find and what they see out in the system.
It's good to know our water is protected. Thank you.
Anyone else with questions for Mr. Liggett on street, sewer, or water?
I just have a quick question. The leak that was happening like on Concord Road area,
Oh, good
not Concord, I'm sorry, Croton Road.
one.
Anything, did we find anything? Cause,
Well, that mysterious leak, it
Yeah.
shows up and disappears, it shows up and disappears, and we had checked Croton Road, that new main, well, it's not new anymore. but
Right.
the main that went down there, we checked it 3 different times, and then the leak showed up again for the water flow. So we went away from that, we started checking all the lines on North Main Street. We did find a leak in the service at 385 North Main Street. So that has been dug and repaired, and since that leak has been repaired, there's no more water on Croton Road. Now, it's a little bit mystifying how that leak
It's so
at
weird.
385
yeah,
could have got to that point. However, when you bed your water mains in that new line that went up Croton Road, I keep calling it new, it's new. you know, it's a newer
Newest.
line, they're bedded in gravel.
yeah.
So if that leak, if that water's getting to the gravel on the main line over on North Main, it could be traveling all the way around the corner, because if you look at it, that is a downhill run to there. So if it did make that ditch line, that water could be traveling. So I actually drove out there today, it's still dry, and we will continue to monitor to see if that's it. If that repair takes care of what was going on.
Yeah, I'm just so, mostly I'm just curious because it's bizarre.
Yeah, it
It's
comes,
bizarre.
and it goes, and it comes, and it goes. But like I said, there on Croton Road, we had put our leak location equipment and checked and could find nothing, and were mystified, so we broadened our search area when it showed up again. And we did find a leak, which is great.
Yeah.
And got it fixed. The day after, that leak disappeared, but you know how that water's been coming and going, so we're monitoring. We hope that took care of it.
It's like, is there a spring under there or something?
Well,
It's so
that's
bizarre.
Something we're concerned about
Yeah.
is that possibly what's going on, because it'll show up even in dry weather. You know,
Yeah.
and then it'll disappear.
In the middle of the
60
road.
days.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
So,
So weird.
so the homeowner, there were 2 active investigators on that water leak. So that homeowner, the service was before it hit their meter.
It was
Right.
actually before the curb stop, and the city maintains the service lines from the main to the curb stop. The leak was actually right dead center of State Route 37. So instead of digging up the state route, we actually had a company come in, we shot a bore, shot a new line underneath the road, and tied it in from the main to the curb stop.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else for Jack on this one?
Yeah, one question that I had, the light over there on Jersey.
At Williams.
Or, yeah, Jersey Williams, we talked about that.
No, I
Okay.
saw it again last night, so
Yeah, I noticed
What's happening
that
tonight? You
we
talking
just,
about the
yeah,
rapid
Yep.
fire?
we just either need it fixed or we need some good techno music on the corner. We can have a rave over there.
Well, we've set it twice. It actually, during the daytime, as you all know,
Works fine.
it's functioning properly. It's just after 4 o'clock, it goes into the yellow flash. And we tried resetting it and looking at it, but I think we're at a point I'm gonna have to call MP Dory out. They hook their computer up to it, do an analysis on it to see why that's rapid flashing. Of course, every time they come out, it's a
Yeah.
Working great.
sensitive situation, so we thought we were trying, try to handle it in-house if we could. Now, it is a rapid flash, but it is yellow and red on the proper streets, so, it shouldn't create any accident, it just looks odd.
Yeah.
But I think at this point,
Have we received any complaints?
Yes.
Yeah, they were.
yes, but I don't know. Yes, it looks odd. Is it hurting anything? No, it's not. But
Yeah.
we'll still fix it.
I'd imagine if your bedroom window's right there, you might notice it, but
Well, I mean, the one up the street's flashing too. It's just not flashing at
Yeah.
the same speed. And, you know, we're just trying to squeeze through this end of the year budget with what we've got because that line item is exhausted. But, you know, here again, it's flashing red on the proper streets, it's flashing yellow on the proper street, which, you know, yellow, caution, slow down. Red on the other streets means stop. But at this point, we've reset it, we've done everything that we can do in-house, so we'll probably call MP Dory in to hook the computer up to it and see if they can find the error. Do we have a control board or something in there that's starting to malfunction? So maybe we'll be proactive with it at this point and see what it is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jack, is there any highlights from your service director report you'd like to hit?
Yeah, just a couple. Item number one, for the new plant, we are trying out a new chlorine analyzer pacing. We were able to get that set up. They're gonna let us use this piece of new equipment for 60 days to see if we would like to use that in the new facility. Item two, wastewater plant update. Rick and I went over to Jacobs Engineering and looked at the 30% design plans on the wastewater plant. It is coming along fine, and as far as 30% design, it looks very good. We're gonna skip three, no information. Item four, the $1,000 grant that we applied for has been received, and we're buying a new tripod with that to lower, so we can safely lower the guys in and out of confined spaces, such as sewer manholes and things like that. We've already discussed the source water assessment. We already discussed the leak we found. And the last item I'm gonna bring up is you will see crews out through December turning mainline valves. So you'll see the truck, the lights out along the street operating those valves. We like to get those done more along the lines of August and September, but we pace and time, we didn't get it done. So we're gonna be out there in December trying to get those valves turned. All critical valves, we have a list of critical valves, have been turned and they are done. But now we're just going through the city, doing general maintenance on valves. That is all I have.
When is the street sweeper scheduled to run through downtown again?
The street sweeper is scheduled to run through downtown on Sundays, I think from 10 to 1.
I was just curious, I noticed there's a lot of leaves
Well,
on the curbs.
The cars,
Yeah.
even though the signs are up, telling them they're not supposed to park there during that time frame. I actually got a call from Tim Perry, who does that sweeping on Sundays, said the whole line was pretty well filled with cars and he can't get over against the curb.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, moving to public hearing, there's a zoning change request. So there's ordinance 30-2024. This is the ordinance to accept the zoning text amendment. This is the first reading of it. Sean, would you like to explain this, and then we can have representatives if they want to come and speak?
Sure. So, we have the first reading, just an opening for the public to give us feedback and concerns related to the legislation. And after we hear the feedback or any concerns, if there is any, staff can follow up with the citizens, and then potentially address these individually or prior to next week's council meeting and the vote. So tonight, just a procedural piece of what the legislation is, and that is the opportunity for public comment to be held, and then for us to receive those comments, and then try to provide feedback or answers. And specifically, if you all have any questions that we can, as staff, try to answer in the meantime and provide you with some background, we'll do our best to do that as well.
Does the representative like to speak tonight?
Good afternoon, council members, staff. Thank you for your time. My name is Craig Moncrief. I'm an attorney with the Plank Law Firm in Columbus, here with and on behalf of Roebling Development Company, who is the applicant. Tim Tepe is here as well to answer any questions you may have. They are in contract to purchase 48 acres of land. This is vacant property in the Johnstown Industrial Park. This is it's a unique request. It's a unique request for a unique situation. And really what we've been hoping to do and what we're open to tonight is opening the dialogue, as was discussed before, because this is our request and we've put together a list of proposed uses based on our experience in other cities and just familiarity with limited manufacturing districts. But this is your zoning code, this is your city, and we're happy to discuss this and go over what works for you, what doesn't, and keep the discussion going, even if it involves tabling tonight and continuing discussions. We want to just have an open dialogue and find something that works for everybody. I think there is a solution that can be found that makes everybody happy. I don't think I'm overstepping or being dramatic when I say that this limited manufacturing code as currently drafted, at least the uses, is problematic. I think problematic, honestly, for everybody. Whether you are a developer or whether you own a property that has a building on it, or whether it's a vacant land, or even the city, I would say. And I prepared a letter. I hope everyone has it. It's dated November 24th. I can provide a copy if necessary, but that kind of went over our stance on this and why we think there's a way to move forward. To hit some broad strokes, the city has identified 394 acres within the city that is amenable or open to manufacturing development to supply regional supply needs. That's directly out of the zoning code. And a significant chunk of that is in the industrial park, of which 150 acres is undeveloped. I think you've heard from just about everybody today that has land there. This property in particular that our client's interested in is at the end of, it's Endeavor Court, it's called. It's part of Commerce Boulevard. And it's frankly hard to imagine this property being developed in a different use or manner. It's got 700 feet of frontage only on Commerce Boulevard, Endeavor Court, which only provides access to industrial properties. It's about 2,000 or so feet from Sportsman Club Road, so unless there's significant infrastructure put in, it'd be hard to separate this property from that development and from that road. The adjacent property, which is owned by the same property owner, is developed with a industrial building, and what Roebling is looking to do is they put together a site plan that shows two buildings that are around 200,000 square feet, which would meet all the standards in, as far as development standards go in the zoning text. But really, the thing that's holding it up is the uses. And I'd say the problem with the uses is that it's tough to imagine a long-term viable development with such restrictive language, restrictive in both, I'd say it's fair to say it's unclear and just severely restricted, as in it goes to goods and items, not necessarily your standard use terminology in zoning codes, things like warehousing, wholesaling, manufacturing, items like that, which just makes it hard to, unless you have a hyper-specific use in mind, it's a significant risk to develop the property. And even if you are thinking about developing the property, there's still the risk of long-term vacancies or numerous hearings in front of city boards to try to figure out specific uses and things like that. So it's a concern, and I think that's it's important to address, considering this is an area that you've got people that are looking to bring development, bring jobs, increase property tax, increase income tax, and the infrastructure's there to handle that. So we're looking to look through that. Like I said, this is language that we've used in Licking County, Harrison Township, in Fairfield County, Pickaway County. I'd say it's not too far off from something you'd find in the city of Columbus or New Albany. And a lot of this, the staff report went into, a lot of this was based also on the planned district. some of the uses that were listed in there. So I'd say it's your standard bundle of warehousing, wholesaling, and light manufacturing, not venturing into salvage yards or things like that, but just your, what I would consider kind of standard light industrial uses. Really, the goal of this is to add flexibility, at least an element of flexibility, and like I said, in order to get long-term viability, because I think it's important to think if you're going to put a building there, what's it going to look like 5 years, 10 years, 30 years from now, as far as who your tenants can be and how this can be developed. So that's really what our concerns were. I know city staff put together a very thorough staff report, and we're happy to work through those concerns, whether it's procedurally or substantively. I mean, traffic, I know Plan District has certain protocols as far as when you get a traffic study done. Maybe there's a mechanism to having a traffic analysis done as part of a site plan review. It's a bit tricky to do that until you know what exactly your highest and best use is. Same for utilities. I mean, I know there's an engineering review with any site plan. If there's any utility issue, we're not going to be developing there, and there's no desire to cause any sort of issue. So if that's an option, we'd love to talk through that. And I think it is important to note that this is not a situation where you're going from a property that only allows one house on it and you're trying to go to commercial. This is a industrial zoned property and area. It's just severely restrictive. If someone wanted to take our building prototype and go for it, they could do that tomorrow. It's just very severely limited. So these types of uses are permitted. And so from a traffic standpoint, I don't really see how much of a change there would be, considering they're all kind of under the warehousing manufacturing umbrella. It's just more so to not differentiate based on goods and things like that. So just some things to keep in mind. Like I said, we're coming here hoping to work with you to find a resolution. Obviously here to answer any questions you may have, and thank you for your time.
Does any council members have any questions tonight for him?
I do.
Go ahead, Joe.
So I think I'm more interested in the process of the request of what that looks like.
Say it again.
The process of the applicant's request to amend the language. We know that from reading everything, the Planning and Zoning has recommended not to amend. And I'm not trying to get into the weeds today, but as far as the process, what's next after now?
If we deny it, then it's dead.
Understood.
If we, well, hold on. If we vote yes, it's dead. If we vote no on it,
Next council meeting, you will
vote on it.
vote on this ordinance. So
A yes vote is to confirm what zoning, zoning denied.
the ordinance is to accept the zoning text amendment.
Okay, so it would be yes would approve it, no would deny it.
Okay.
Okay. So if it's yes, then we override zoning. If it's no, then it kills it.
So the first part is that if it's an easy 7-0, we don't want to change anything. That's a quick vote, 7-0, move on. If it was the opposite, that there was enough to want to change something, I think that's what I'm asking about the process. Is there any discussion in between now and next week, Tuesday, when we take a vote?
We can discuss it all, we can discuss it however you want to discuss it. I just,
Okay. I just didn't know if there was going to be a, for lack of better words, a dedicated moment, whether it's tonight, whether it's Sunday morning at 8 o'clock before church or what. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to
so
find
next
out.
Tuesday, we'll have our attorney and our zoning, how would you describe his positions?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. And if I could jump in, I think I'm picking up what Jeff's putting down here. In the process, I had to go through this with another applicant as well, so I've got an email and I was desperately trying to find it for really an organized scheduling of how these zoning amendments take place if they're not initiated from the city. And in this outline, it'll tell you if it is initiated by the city or the zoning board has the ability to initiate the process. And the third alternative is the applicant. In this particular case, an applicant did the process. More than happy to send you that piece of information so that you can look at it. It has some specific timelines, some public hearings that are required for the process, and it outlines all the steps necessary. So that really speaks to that. I think you're also talking about, is there options to deny, approve, or approve with modifications? And maybe that's what you're asking, and if it's not, I apologize. If that is the case, I would encourage you as a council member to reach out to staff so we could dive into this a little bit deeper. Those conversations are likely going to take a little bit more time, and but if you have those, absolutely, give us a shout, and what we can do is connect you with myself, and if I can't give you the proper information, we'll also connect you with Trevor and his team with the planners, and to get you any of those questions answered. So that's something that we'll commit to do. But yes, next week would be the next hearing. It says at the next regularly scheduled council meeting. Typically, you have a 2-week period. This next regularly scheduled council meeting happens to fall next week. So we do plan to have our staff there as well as our legal team to.
So next week, when our staff and legal team are here, they're going to
go through the staff report specifically, if there's any questions to it. And then also, now that we've heard some feedback from the applicant, some of the information that we received tonight, we'd heard before, and we have already addressed some of those. But if there's any new information, it'll give our staff an opportunity to answer those questions and give feedback to council in a reply and a response to some of the statements that were made tonight. So yes, our legal team will be here to answer any questions. I did have our legal team look at the letter that was sent over, and we'll likely receive a reply from them associated with some of the comments that were addressed in the letter. Would like to get that over to you within the next day from our legal counsel, and I'll have them shoot that over to you, and you guys can unpack that as well.
Sounds good.
Sean, just out of curiosity, I wonder if another option would be to not close the hearing tonight, continue it, that way at least to keep the door open to, council doesn't necessarily have to make a decision next week.
I will have to defer to Teresa and Mike, or completely under the bus, because I went through this outline multiple times. I think what I'm going to have to do is check with legal. In our ordinances, this specific issue has some very distinct timelines associated with it. A normal application such as a variance that would go through zoning, there's the opportunity to table it. This one, I'm not sure if it has that capability or not, but that's something we can certainly reach out to our legal and find out if that is an option, or if we are required to follow the specified ordinance cadence that is set forth in that particular document.
If it is able to be tabled, would you be open to tabling it so we can have more discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll find out.
Okay.
If you want, I can formally make the request on record. That way it's there tonight. At the end, we can do that.
We need to vote on that. What we need, Teresa? Table it?
I mean, reading our ordinance, it's pretty clear. I mean, we can certainly check with legal, but it says at the next regularly scheduled council meeting after the public hearing, which is next Tuesday.
I think the key thing there would be after the public hearing. I don't think there's a requirement to necessarily close the public hearing tonight. So if there's, typically I've heard it referred to as continuing the hearing.
So let's check with legal. If it's the option, we can do it next Tuesday.
Okay.
I would advise that, checking with legal.
Yeah.
These zoning issues are oftentimes, sometimes a sticky wicket. And so you have to handle them with delicate care. A lot of the times the process is the piece that gets questioned. And so we're crossing our Ts and dotting our Is as we walk through this. And so I would not want to give you any advice before consulting, before getting with legal.
Okay.
My words are escaping me, I apologize.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving forward with public hearings of legislation, Resolution 2024-47, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a development agreement with Tech International LLC and IWR Holdings LLC, collectively known as TRC. This is an agreement that council discussed earlier this year. There has been a slight change to it.
Okay. You want me to jump in?
Go ahead.
So just some corrections and an opportunity to correct. So there was a slight modification that needed to be done after we gained some further feedback from our partner in this particular piece. And going back and reviewing the documents, the one that was in front of council actually had a blank space associated with one of the pieces that was looked at. So knowing that we needed to probably clear that up, the one that you see before you tonight is the most up-to-date and accurate piece. And so, like I said, there was a small iteration that needed to be done with it. And going back into the document, we found that there was a blank in the agreement. And so this provides us with the opportunity to modify it ever so slightly, but also to get it in front of you to clean up a little bit of housekeeping. So if there's any questions, more than happy to answer. Some of these are discussable, and you have the opportunity to speak here, or we can offline have a conversation as well. Up to you.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Stainert on this?
I do.
Go ahead.
If somebody else wants to go first, go ahead.
I'm good.
Number one, investment in property. TRC commits to invest in at least $20 million in the property at the improvements on the property, blah, blah, blah. Can you expand on that, exactly what the $20 million is, please?
Sure.
And what impact it may have in the sense of jobs?
Sure. So what we have is a longtime employer, the longest employer, I believe, in Johnstown. And they were doing an expansion project, and they've chosen to remain in Johnstown. And so oftentimes when you're looking at economic development, it's not always in the job creation. However, this one does have the potential for job creation, but the job retention and the past commitment that this particular company has made to Johnstown. So those are factors that go into any type of agreement. And we look at all of those facets whenever we're digesting it. So the $20 million investment, as you can see if you've driven out to Sportsman's Club Road there along US 62, there's quite an expansive piece of building that's being added on to the current Tech International site. And that's going to allow them to come in to, I don't want to say the 21st century, but somewhat of antiquated equipment that existed in their old facility. They're going to be able to make new improvements, latest technologies, keep them competitive in their workforce and in the market for the specific products that they provide. So this investment allows them to be competitive in their market, as well as continue their relationship and existence in Johnstown. And we're excited that they chose to stay in Johnstown. And this is part of that piece that we are saying this is a good deal for you as well as for us for your continued expansion.
Thank you.
Anybody else with questions? Does the community have any questions on this item? Hearing none, what is the will of council for resolution 2024-47?
Make a motion to pass as written.
Second.
Jeff Carr,
Affirm.
Dave Seeling,
Yes.
Brian Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis,
Yes.
Mayor Barnard,
Yes.
Wes Cobble.
Yes.
Moving forward to resolution 2024-48, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement with Local Waste Services to extend the current contract for the collection and disposal of residential refuse and garbage, and to provide curbside collection of recyclables in the city of Johnstown. Our contract was up at the end of this year, and we needed to move into a new contract for Shop It. Based on findings, we felt that it was best to stay with Local Waste Services. The contract would run from January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2029. Sean, would you like to give the details on this, or Ms. Monroe?
I can dive in quickly. So in the second or third page, you'll see the addendum. These are items that are different from what was originally agreed upon in our original contract. So items that are different, obviously the price, and number one. The other ones, number two, was in a previous addendum, so nothing new there. Item three was in an additional addendum, and I believe 3 years ago when this came before council then. Item four, the only new ones that I have added were in section 13 and 25, furnishing a $150,000 performance bond. The original bond was set at $100,000, but that was back in 2015 when the original document was signed. Bonds are typically done in order to protect the city in case they don't uphold their service. Then we have some type of financial ability to outsource that service. And so obviously with the cost of goods and services going up, I didn't feel $100,000 would quite be sufficient. So moving that to 150 protects our liability in the future. So that was the justification for the movement there. They seem to be agreeable to that. Also, number 9, section 41, I added some additional containers at no charge. There has been obviously conversations about our current sites as well as additional sites that may exist. So knowing that this contract would exist for at least a 3-year, potentially longer than that, giving us some ability to add some additional containers at no charge if we so choose at a different date. So really, the agreement now had a locked-in address associated with it and certain sizes. The sizes on some of our current addresses has been increased to allow for additional capacity, as well as, like I said, the flexibility for us to add an additional site if necessary in the future.
Are these sites city government sites that, for the trash for the city, or what are these sites exactly?
Give me a moment and I'll see if I can find it.
While you're looking that up, how many approximately, do we know how many approximately accounts in the city that this contract covers? Paying customers?
It'd be close to the water.
I'm going to jump in on that if you don't mind, Teresa. So I
Roughly.
think the original contract, I believe, had it was either 1,500 or 1,700 customers, and that was back in 2015. So my estimation, and something I was going to change in our bid specifications if we did put this out to bid, was estimating it at around 2,000 residents based on our water billing. That's an estimate. I would say slightly higher. I think we have more than that as far as water accounts, but some of those are obviously commercial accounts, so factoring in some of those
So
commercial
you think
accounts.
there's at least 2,000, could be more?
That would be my guess and what I was going to associate with the bids that went out.
Okay, does council have any questions while Sean's looking up about the
Sites?
containers, yeah? Okay, open up to the public if you have any questions. Hearing none.
I feel like there's a clock ticking somewhere.
I'd like to make a motion to pass resolution 2024-48 as written.
Second.
Jeff Parr,
Affirm.
Dave Seeland,
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cobble.
Yep.
Okay.
I have the
Get-
answer if you want.
If you have it?
I believe I do. I
Okay,
say
I'm just
that.
curious what it is.
There it is. All right, so location, city offices, 599 South Main Street, 5-yard, closed-in dumpster, water treatment plant, 395 West Jersey, the address there,
So it's
5-yard.
it's the office, different locations within
Yeah,
the city for us.
and then Street Department, 94 College, American Legion Building, which we own, West Maple Street, and then also address to be determined at a later date was what I put in there. 2 containers, each being a 6-yard dumpster, and the pickup on those would be weekly. So gives us some ability to expand in alternative locations if the need arises.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Resolution 2024-49, a resolution amending the council rules of order. Mr. Orsini's not here, so I'll go over these real quick. We made just a couple small changes to the rules of council. Very minor. The first one is on section 802. It's talking about completing a speaker slip and then being recognized by the chair. That an individual speaking during that section, citizen comments on matters not on the agenda, speak for a duration of 3 minutes with an option for 1 additional minute at the presiding member's discretion. No yielding of time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
What, so the presiding member's discretion, that's the mayor position?
It's the mayor, or if I'm not here, it's the president of council, whoever's leading that meeting. Or if in zoning, it'd be the zoning chair.
Yeah.
Or finance chair.
So only that member can do it?
Whoever's running the meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't stop you from speaking, but they can decide which turn. It's more of a point of order type thing.
Say that again one more time, Mr.
They
Ryan.
can't stop you from speaking, but
Can't.
they can recognize you when if somebody's in the middle of completing a thought
Right.
and people are talking over, it's more of a point of order type thing.
I'm just for sake of governance, what if several other members of any board or committee wanted to allow that person another minute?
I see
think
where you're
my-
going, because if someone's up here and I don't want to listen to that person, I could say, you're done at your 3 minutes, but the rest of you guys want to hear it.
Or for that matter, Wes does, and only Wes. I'm making.
Do we do a vote?
That's what I'm asking.
No, it's a valid question because I think it
'Cause then it-
came up when we talked about it too. With like, you wanna, it's more of a baseline thing, but
I mean, if
agree.
it comes down to that and say we're going to do a vote, do we say, okay, please stop your thought?
Well,
We're going to do a
right,
vote.
then it kind of messes
Yeah.
up the cadence of that.
I mean, they're basically getting 4 minutes each time. Because they get 3 minutes and we yield them an additional minute to finish. The problem you run into is if council votes or says, we want you to go past your 4 minutes, and then someone else comes up and we say, you're only getting your 4 minutes, 3 minutes, and your additional one.
And I know it's just 60 seconds, I'm just,
Yeah.
okay, answers my question.
Okay.
No, it's legitimate because we discussed it too. Like,
We just have to be fair with
you don't want
everybody.
to stifle comment, but you also want to have some sort of framework.
Right, so I guess it's one of those things that if whomever is presiding the meeting and I would assume that regardless of the situation, would give a minute for the sake of giving a minute. And if that chairperson or who's ever residing over a minute said, no, you're done, then I would assume 6 other people might jump on that person to say, hey, let him speak. And would
The next item.
coercion by persuasion.
Yeah.
Oh.
The next item is in B, and this has to do with documentation we receive. It must go to the clerk of council prior to the meeting. The person addressing council shall provide 10 copies of such materials to the clerk. So that way they're giving it to the clerk of council, and the clerk of council passes out to us.
What if they only bring 7? Does the clerk still accept it?
I'm sure I would.
Okay.
What was the reason for the 10 again, Ryan? It was for all of us, plus the city
It was
manager,
all
clerk
of
of
us
council.
plus the
Finance.
necessary staff.
3 for staff.
Yeah, and it was so that everybody had a legitimate presentation. We're
So the
not
clerk wouldn't
hurting-
necessarily reject it if there's 9. It's just we're asking for 10.
Yeah.
Got it?
The last thing, I believe this is the last thing, is to, for what we call the Jeff rule.
Can we be more specific and say the
They're all the
Jeff Barr
Jeff-
rule?
The Jeff Barr rule.
They're all becoming the Jeff rule tonight.
When the clerk calls the roll, each member shall, instead of respond abstain, no, present, or yes, they can now say yes, no, abstain, present, here, or affirm.
I hope that stays in there
So,
from now until Zev becomes,
so we added affirm to it,
thank you.
that
I appreciate
Jeff is
your
legal
support.
when we vote. So those are the changes. Does anyone have any questions or comments on those changes?
I'd like to make a motion past 20.
Well, we got to go to the residents first. Do you guys have any questions or comments on these? Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
I'd like to make a motion to pass Resolution 2024-49 as written.
Second.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Dave Sealand.
Affirm.
I was gonna say.
There you go, Dave, you're picking it up, buddy.
Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Eric Cole.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's have a little fun, Dave.
Good job, Dave.
Was that appropriate though? Because we didn't adopt it?
She accepted it before?
All right, we're good.
She likes you too?
Okay, moving to Resolution 2024-50, a resolution to adopt a policy for honorary street name signs in the city of Johnstown. So this is another item that a resident brought up to us just about a month ago, asking how they can do an honorary street sign. And we have no policy in place, so we came up with a policy to formalize this process so that it doesn't ever appear that we're not allowing one person or that whole, we want to do it in a fair way, so we need to come up with a policy. So our resolution 2024-50 was created with the policy for an honorary street name. We have all the items here laid out for it. Does council have any questions on any of these items in there? One of the things that went in there by reviewing other cities is it has to be considered past their death. Posthumous, I can't say the word, so.
Posthumously.
Yeah, posthumously. If you look at the word and try to say it, I can't say it. That it has to be for someone after their death. That way, you're just not, Mr. Allen is not naming them for each of his 3 kids. And you know, Mr. Allen's a favorite resident here, and he wants 3 street names after his kids, and they're all living, so it's for after death, so. Does council have any questions on this item?
I forgot to ask, but
Go ahead, Ryan.
legal requirements, the cites revised code, did that cite the color in there too?
It's federal standards, yes.
Does it? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have to change the ones we
Yeah.
have now to,
That was the only question I had. I know we
Yes.
talked about it.
and we asked Jack last time how they came up with that color, and he's not sure how they ever came up with that color, that sign. Any other questions?
So in the end, who's the decision maker?
Council.
A decisions made by the city manager in the process of administrating and interpreting this policy may be appealed and right to the Johnstown City Council. So it goes to the city manager, and if they're not happy with it, it comes to council.
Okay, so when I hear that, then the city manager denies or approves?
Yes.
And then if it's approved, does it come to us?
We can add that in there as a final check.
I think it would be appropriate, again, not an individual or position here, that I feel like it's something that should be risen to the level of council, not the city manager's position.
Okay. So request shall be made in writing letter form to the city manager describing the details of intersection location and justification for the honorary designation. Once the city manager receives it, then it would go to council for vote. Is that fair?
Oh, I'm completely fine with it, because that doesn't.
It takes it off of you, or
100%.
it takes it off the city manager, position 1, then there's 7 people up here to,
I think it does make it more of an honor also.
Yes.
and it's talked about publicly. As a former board member of a local nonprofit organization that, you know, you have debate and merit
Yeah.
on things. That way it's a collective group.
I like it. Tracy, can you make that change?
Do you want it done by resolution,
I think that'd probably be best.
so you can vote on it?
Yeah.
or-
Yeah, let's do that.
I have another question about the $200 fee. I don't, does, it covers the cost of the design, fabrication, installation, that $200 covers everything?
We talked about that with Jack, and it,
Yeah, I can't see the sign costing more than $200, and of course, our service group will go out and put it in.
Okay. Because I want to be fair, some people may have a $200 may be hard on them and have a,
It's not an attempt for the city to raise, or,
yeah, it's not an attempt to raise money.
It's
But
an
at the
attempt just
same
to cover
time,
cost.
it covers cost.
A one-of-a-kind sign is different than ordering stop signs that they have.
Where
Warehouses full of them.
where I'm going with it is that whether it's $100, $150, $200, or even $500, does this policy allow the city manager, when first brought in, or to the council as a whole, to waive the $200 fee? If you had a widow wanting to honor her husband that served and limited income, there's no means for that person to ask for the $200 to be waived. Sergeant York, which is the aircraft carrier is named after, if you know anything about their story, that was a family of little means. So thinking about those kinds of things.
I think there's opportunities for the city council to waive it or to also fundraise to cover that 200. I don't see the 200 being a stopping point for anybody.
Folks could be embarrassed by having to ask if something is not written in there that they know they have that option. It can be handled more discreetly, if you will. Whereas if I was on council and I saw Sergeant York's wife right here, I could immediately pick up to request on that person's behalf of having that option to waive, rather than making somebody to request to waive the fee, if it was written in as such, is what I'm asking to be considered. Rather, I don't disagree with you, Donnie, I'd pull $100 out of your pocket and $100 out of Ryan to pay for it, but, yep. But not putting the onus on the applicant to ask for it, should they be in a situation. And again, I would just say we waive the fee, and
Does council want to add that to that or not?
I'd like to explore the idea of the fundraising idea, because then the question could then come to council just the same as when I did for the memorial tree for Miss Rosser. You know, just to say, hey, is council willing and able to pick up that expense? And again, at the rate that we're paid for these meetings, I think it'd be a quick and easy decision by council to say, yeah, we agree with this, and it would be an equitable.
yeah, and I
donation
appreciate
from
even that effort,
everyone.
Dave, but it also then, what if somebody didn't want to? That's
Well, if they didn't, but they're still going to have to ask council to waive it.
Chances are, if you're gonna get a street named after you, you're popular. I mean, you'd be able to raise I think you'd be able to raise the money. I mean, we're not gonna make like an Art Modell Parkway here or anything like that, but
We're here for governance, that's all. I'm just one person. I would like
Is there a
language.
way to set up a fund now that people could donate to the fund? You know, it probably can't go through city council, obviously, but there
We
could
can
be
do,
an
we
organization.
have a tree fund.
That's paid for out of
It's paid for out
individual
of.
donations.
Right.
So maybe one of our nonprofits could set up a fund where people could make donations to that.
The money is not the issue, it's the means of allowing the person to know that they have some way to I have experienced where people don't ask because they're ashamed, embarrassed, whatever you want to call it, and then an opportunity is
I
lost.
just don't know
because-
how we could possibly do it anonymously.
Yeah, I don't know.
without-
I like the idea. I just don't know how we write it.
Okay,
That's what I'm thinking too, is like, how do we say, unless you put $200 when applicable, like it,
I don't know either.
We can work on that though.
Okay, thank you for considering.
Does residents have any comments, questions or comments on this item? Okay. Hearing none.
I have one last question. It says that it's for 10 years. Is that typical
Yes.
from what we
That's what I
found in
found,
other
yes.
places? And the service director keeps track of that? And the only reason why I
Thinking they
ask,
probably don't.
Well, what I would recommend also from experience, when you have these memorials, benches, park table, blah, da, 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 man, if you don't have a spreadsheet with policy, that, what'd you take my sign down for?
Teresa, we could create one, couldn't we?
Create what?
Just a spreadsheet on the honorary street names and when,
We could.
Somebody should
If
be
it's
keeping
not a
track of it.
resolution, that'll be easier to track
Okay.
as well.
Oh, that's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
The signs that we currently have, are those for forever, or are those gonna be?
There was no policy, so
Okay.
I'm thinking they would fall under what it was at the time.
And I don't, there's,
We had no certain plan to take them down.
yeah.
So,
Well, but that doesn't mean
Those
that
are two
things
pretty
can't be
important ones. I
corrected
can't
to
imagine
reach
that
out to,
anybody
right? Because
safe to
the
change
family
those.
members are still here to say that we have a policy. We'd like for you to follow it and continue it and do it proper so that no one is perceived as receiving
History is found out. on
preferential
later.
treatment in any
It's
way.
nice to have a 10-year.
Is all I'm suggesting, because I'm telling you from experience, it happens.
To leave it up another 10 years.
yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Can there
There's a
be a
renewal.
request
Yeah.
to leave it
Like
up
a
another
renewal.
10 years?
Yeah, and they pay the $200. And they,
And your fundraising.
Yeah, then, yeah,
Right.
10-year fundraising, that crosses the line.
What's this?
there.
What's it say?
Huh?
It'll be handled like new requests with all applicants.
That's a good point. How long are the signs usually?
effect at that time for the renewal. So
Renewals-
rules and fees would still be in effect.
I don't know how long the
I think,
actual
I think that at that point in time, if it gets past the 10 years and city council, at that point in time, that's where I think you could then easily word it to the point of saying, then city council votes to, is this person still relevant and popular and all that kind of stuff?
those
Then you
two
can
names are
say.
gonna be relevant for decades.
Those
Well,
two,
well, no,
yes,
that's,
those two will.
that's
yeah.
exactly what I'm saying, is that at that point in time, it turns to our discretion to say, yes, we are keeping these signs, and yes, that $200 is now on us.
So we currently have in the policy here, renewals, if desired at the end of the 10-year period, will be handled like new requests with all applicable rules and fees in effect at that time. So do
I
we
think if-
strike that?
I think at that point in time, then, again, that would, before the resolution would expire, essentially, it could come to council first to say, yes, we are going to continue this. Unless there's a request not to from the original applicant, then we would say, yes, we're going to continue this, and yes, we will take the $200 fee out of city funds, because again, this is a person that's been in good standing and, did great things for the city, and we will continue this on for another 10 years, and we will pay for the street sign replacement as needed, if needed.
Okay. So leave it like it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would just have to, then just, that council in 10 years would just have to revote it to extend the
Yeah,
resolution for 10
I'm
more
fine
years.
with that because today the guy's great. You find out later he embezzled all the money he donated to the city.
Well, I mean,
You might want to be
Oh,
able to get
terrible.
rid of that.
Christopher Columbus statues come down, all the president statues come down, so people's perception of history
Right,
changes.
people's perception of history changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean, somebody
So the two
that,
that are currently up, are those gonna be, fall into this too, or?
Their signs are gonna change to blue
Okay,
to match the federal guidelines.
and the 10-year starts at that point?
I
or
would say the
is-
10-year
is
starts at
this
that
ju-
point,
Are
I
we
agree.
gonna
Yeah.
grandfather
And
those
then
in?
we cover that sign replacement.
Yeah.
Because it was a city's own mistake to have the wrong
Yeah.
color in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the will of council on resolution 2024-50?
How many changes did we make?
do we want to, we made like 3 changes. Do you want us to table it?
Are there changes?
Well,
Well,
define the
Teresa, can you
changes.
tell us the changes you wrote?
Well, the only change I kind of noted was under cost. I don't know if you want to put a,
And to make it a resolution, the resolution part, I think that's.
yeah,
probably
I
the-
think the fee shall be payable to the city of Johnstown and will be deposited in the city's general fund. Do you want to say something like unless waived by council?
Yes.
Or, okay.
And then you need to change decisions,
then-
the city manager part.
Trying to figure out where to put that. I have the section for appeals, but I don't know that that's necessary because of the decisions not made by the city manager. I think
Mhm.
strike that,
Yes.
or just put, replace it with,
Maybe we're like requests
um,
and just to city administration and then to be submitted for a resolution. I don't know, does that make sense?
I just wrote by resolution, so maybe, approval, maybe the section will be approval. And requests will be made to council in the form of resolution.
Yeah, under the request for
And to your
honorary
point,
signs.
You can
Yeah.
take out the appeals.
Yeah.
Yep.
I struck that.
Okay. Okay, what would council like to do then?
I make a motion to pass resolution 2450 with the mentioned changes.
A second. No, you go.
J.C. Lane,
Yes.
Brian Green,
Yes.
Tiffany Holland.
Yes.
Darren Barton,
Yes.
Wes Cobble,
Yes.
Jeff Clark.
Affirm.
Okay, moving on to introduction of legislation. This is ordinance 31-2024, an ordinance to approve expenses and other expenditures of the city of Johnstown, Licking County, state of Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025. This is the first reading. We talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago. Does council have any questions on the budget?
This is our first reading, correct?
Correct.
And we'll have public comment tonight, right?
The public comments next week.
Next week?
Yes.
And council, if they have no questions tonight, but have
They can make they can have
six
questions.
next week,
Yep. They
they'll
can-
still have opportunity to also ask next week.
Yep.
And public will also have opportunity to ask questions next week as well, too.
Yes.
And should we have any questions ourselves, we could reach out to the finance director and/or the city manager as well.
Yes.
Highly encouraged ahead of time.
Because if we don't pass it next week, we're meeting the following week. So
I'm sorry?
if we don't pass it next week, then we have to meet the following week.
So take advantage of that time.
That's highly encouraged. Christmas is a fun day.
Any other questions from council? Okay. That was all the legislation. Does any member of council have any other business tonight?
I do. So as we know, the parade's this weekend.
Can't hear you.
You're probably the first person to ever say I couldn't hear me.
That's-
The heater.
Keep going.
So the parade's this weekend. Is everybody going to be on the float, or we need to
I
give
obviously
Jack
will
a chance
not.
to get it ready? I have stuff ready.
What time does it kick off, 5:30?
Parade starts at 5:30, yeah. Lineup starts at 3:30.
But we can be there at 5:29, hop on the float and go.
If you can
I gotta be there at
walk to
3.
get to
I'll
it.
drive. I'll volunteer to drive again.
Thought the old
course
guys
you
got
will.
to drive with the heat.
Yeah. Yeah, why don't you sit in the back with us?
No, I mean,
Forecast for that day?
Yeah.
It's 25
last
degrees
year,
cold.
last year we had my dad drive. My dad drove last year. But
Do we actually really have a float?
It's
we,
just
we
a trailer.
get a
with-
trailer.
Yeah,
We
the
get a trailer.
I have a trailer.
But I want to like decorate up with some lights this year. And
And you can put your kids on it with you too.
yeah, I have a power converter. We'll have a speaker. I'll hook it up to my phone.
I'm in, I'm bringing some kids.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So we just need to let Jack know.
What time do you want the truck parked up here?
Well, that's even better.
Probably we will leave the truck here Friday night.
Yeah,
Put
they can,
keys in the office, that's the standard.
yeah.
You can get a hold of me as well. I got to be at the parade in some capacity for some organization.
As long
Pick
as
one.
it's as long as it's here by like 2 or 3, that gives us a chance to get hay bales and decorate.
Yeah, I'll just have it up here Friday night, I'll put the keys in the
Okay.
manager's mailbox,
Perfect.
and then it's accessible to whoever gets here, however, early Saturday, so.
Or connect with me and we'll connect and get you the keys
Bring
ahead of
them.
time.
You bring the lights, Dave. You bring lights.
You said you want to decorate? I'll bring lights.
I usually go get the hay bales. I got the speaker.
I'll bring lights.
I got the music playlist. Last year I thought you brought lights. If anybody else wants to bring anything, go ahead. It's a long trailer, so.
Do you need help, Tiffany, like down there in a warm building?
No, I'll be freezing myself, but I'll
You're judging, aren't you? Don't you like?
announcing, yeah. Yeah, so I'll be shivering the whole time.
You need like a little heater.
Oh my gosh. Well, so we have the like portable propane heaters that we put up, but not in the gazebo. We put them out for all the people. Because we share.
Nice.
Might change that this year.
So does anybody else have any other business?
I have one update.
Okay.
You'll light them right up.
I was checking.
We'll have to clean them
The
up.
62 Kroger light, we've been waiting on parts. Those parts were ordered October 4th. I called and checked with MP Dory. They said there was a 75-day lead time on those parts to fix that light. So end of December, they should be here. Of course, that's a holiday, so I would think probably sometime in the early part of January, we will have the parts, and then we'll have to schedule installation. Now, if something magical happens, maybe it'll be done by the end of this year, but they're not expecting the parts until third week of December.
Okay. Since there's no kids here, doubt they're watching. Next week, we are doing the council meeting. We're meeting starting at 6:30. The items of business is the zoning amendment and the budget. What other items do we have?
I'll have some annual.
We'll have the dates of council for the next year.
resolutions for Dates, council meetings, set holidays.
Are they gonna interview for?
Yes, we do have a life-saving award for the police department.
Okay.
The Officer Lopez and Officer Nation, along with the individual that they said.
Okay.
So I have other business still.
Okay. So giving that, what time, in case your families don't want to sit here during that, should we say that the
For the little kids.
little kids can come?
Yeah.
Lead off of that.
You guys want to lead off
Let's
of that?
lead off with it.
Lead off of that.
Okay. So we'll start at 6:30 with that part of council.
Yep.
I thought we talked about this, Teresa. That we're having our families, the kids come up here and help with
Oh,
council.
You did mention that.
Yes.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah. So everyone's gonna be able to bring their kids up here, or Tiffany, her kids probably don't want to come, but her granddaughter would.
Yeah, no, none of my kids are sitting on my lap, I can tell you that.
So our legislation we need to pass is the speed limit for Santa in the Johnstown jurisdiction. And let the kids figure out the speed limit.
Okay,
They can figure it out on their own,
so we're creating a resolution.
if we can.
You gotta enforce it, not
Do
me.
that. I had not heard that part.
Radars don't go that high.
You.
It is reindeer-driven sleigh only.
And so you want that resolution at the beginning?
Yes, please.
If we can.
Yes.
Is there anything else anybody would like the kids to vote on for next week that you can think of?
That's it.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
And we will have Santa here.
Chief, I'll talk to you about
I was
that.
looking at Teresa, she's like, what the hell?
Yeah, sorry, Teresa. Santa will be here
He needs a
also.
place to park.
Santa will be here.
And maybe like cookies or something, I don't know.
Do what?
I'll bring cookies.
Okay.
I don't know what else.
No, we got a hold of Santa. It's gonna be here.
I do
So
have something else.
Alan, you can come next week.
I'm not missing this.
Bring 10 handouts.
Okay. Ms. Hollis has other business.
I just wanted to say that the tree this year is being donated by Messerall Tree Farm in memory of their son Adam, who was killed in a motorcycle accident earlier this year. So that's just another special tree that we got this year.
Where's that Messler Tree Farm?
It is on Hardscrabble.
Okay.
They've been in business since, maybe like 84 or something like that, so they've been here a long time family. Adam graduated from Northridge, so.
Okay. Okay. Jeff, you said you had something?
Well, please, Tiffany, thanks for all you do with this as well too, and pass it along to your family that puts that tree up, because I know it's an endeavor. that
Yes,
you
we
like to
were out
watch.
doing that tonight, and it was,
Yeah.
it's been a day.
Also wanted to recognize two special educators at the Johnstown Monroe School District, specifically Miss Bennett and Miss Smith. They are speech therapists. Miss Smith's at the elementary school and Miss Bennett is at the intermediate school. Both of these individuals had a personal impact on my son's life. If you know his background, his speech was, you couldn't understand him going into kindergarten. And he's been with them for the past 5 years where he has successfully completed the program. But I wanted to take a moment to thank our those two educators, because not many school districts can provide that service in their school district. And we are fortunate in our school district that we do have speech therapists at the elementary and intermediate school. For anybody that may be listening, Flying Colors, which is a pre-kindergarten program that if their children are in need of speech therapy, I encourage them to reach out to Flying Colors. They are in Newark. It is part of the county education program. If I'm not mistaken, regardless of income, it is free of charge for that speech therapy program if they are not kindergarten age. And then when they get into our school system, of course, we have those two wonderful professionals that provide that service. So I wanted to publicly thank them for their services, not just for my son, but all of the children that they serve in our school district. They are excellent educators and speech therapists that many of our children receive from their services. So you can pass that along, please.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Anybody else?
One more thing. So talk with city staff, starting in January, I'm gonna be starting essentially what would be kind of considered office hours. So I'll be posting myself random times to allow city residents additional access to city council members, mostly myself first, to have a little bit more of an open dialogue, to look at what questions may be sitting out there, and might be opening up to a further dialogue. So just to bring more availability as a city council person to them. It will include a weekend, it will include second shift hours, and also just open up a little bit more availability, because sometimes Tuesday nights at 6:30 is a little restrictive, but I'll have a little more information. Those hours will vary, week to week, month to month, just to make sure I'm covering as many bases as possible to allow residents to kind of speak their mind as they feel appropriate.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, I make a motion, we move to executive session to consider the purchase sale of property, include all 6 council members and the city manager, with no business to follow.
Second.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cobble.
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Dave Seeland.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mr. Cobble, can I ask you to start this session?
Thank you guys for all coming tonight.